right. Good afternoon, everyone. Jonah here with West Michigan Weather. I'm joined by Jacob this afternoon. Just going to do a quick audio check here, make sure you guys can hear us, and then we'll get started.
Yeah, please let us know in chat if anyone happens to be watching, if you can hear both of us.
Jonah here with West Michigan. Sounds good on my end, so I'm joined by Jacob.
Yeah,
Make sure that you're coming in okay. Just going to do a quick audio check here, make sure you guys can hear us, and then we'll get started.
please let us know in
Yeah, I can hear you as well on my end, so it looks like we're all set. How's everyone doing? Thanks for joining us here this afternoon. I just made a social media post with our final snowfall outlook and inviting everyone to join the stream, so we'll give people a few minutes to filter in here. We are going to look at our snowfall forecast here in the stream in just a few minutes. All right. Alrighty, I am good on this end. Jacob, you're all set still, right?
Yep, okay.
All right. So we'll get right into it then. We do have a high impact winter storm that we are expecting to begin very late tonight and then through much of the day tomorrow. Very similar to yesterday's briefing, the information within this video is very current. We just finished putting this together, so everything is very much up to date here. Very few, if any, changes to our forecasts have come in since our last update on yesterday. In terms of the strength of the system, it has not weakened at all, and we're still expecting much of the same impacts that we talked about yesterday. So rain changes over to snow tonight as winds intensify, and then tomorrow we are expecting heavy lake effect snow. Strong to damaging winds and significant blowing snow, especially along and west of US 131. And we are anticipating to see some pretty major travel impacts along and west of US 131, especially the closer you get to the lake shore. We still have some questions about final snowfall totals, and we'll talk about more about why those questions exist when we get to our snowfall forecast. We're going to discuss blizzard potential and the extent of power outages. And I actually want to talk about power outages a little bit right now. Let me pull those up here a moment. Because we are not really seeing that melting ice off to the north. And so taking a look at our power outage map, these were down to very pale blue colors, like 5% this morning. And unfortunately, or last night, excuse me, and unfortunately, given the freezing rain that has been ongoing this morning, and even this afternoon, we've seen a little bit of freezing rain indicated on radar. And I can actually show you guys that as well. So we've seen a little bit of freezing rain indicated on radar up here near Harrison and Clare in these pink colors. You can kind of see it rotating through that area there. Thankfully, it's mostly moved along and north of US 10 at this point, but it is still certainly been a little bit prevalent, a little bit more expected, if you will. Sorry, let me get back to that screen. There we go. So we've seen that a little bit as we've gone through the day here, and we still have temperatures up there along US 10 pretty close to freezing. I don't know what it is right now by you, Jacob, but I know we were talking like low 30s a little bit ago.
Yep, last observation I've seen, this is at the Gratiot Community Airport near Alma. Last I've seen was 34, and that was at 3:55, that observation. So
Okay, so
it's
just a
above
few minutes
freezing.
ago.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so it's above freezing up there, but unfortunately, like for melting ice, we really need to see a prolonged period of those above freezing temperatures. Of course, you're going to have some ice melt, but we really like to see a prolonged period of temperatures above freezing for that ice to start melting effectively. And that's not really been the case so far in our concern, and we'll show you guys winds and when we think winds might arrive here in a little bit, but ice might not have as much of a chance to melt as we initially thought it may have this time yesterday. So we're keeping a close eye. We're seeing power outages go up. Again, they were up at around 5% last night, and they're back up towards 30% there, 40%, and those blue and yellow colors that you see on the map on your screen for Mecosta, Osceola, Clare, and Isabella counties. Right. So let's talk about what's going on today. The biggest thing right now is we have those showers and thunderstorms kind of working through the area. We do have a flood advisory in effect for Barry and Cass, St. Joseph, and Branch counties for just a few minutes longer until 4:30 p.m. They've been getting a little bit of heavier precipitation down there along and south of I-94 there along the state line. So there is that flood advisory that is in effect for just about another 20 minutes. So we wanted to let you all know about that. And then, of course, you can see radar filtering through or scrolling through on the bottom of your screen there. And we've got a lot of precipitation moving through the region. And that's why we have such high rainfall totals that we talked about yesterday. Right. Right. So tonight is when things really start to ramp up. We're going to see rain change over to snow with 1 to 2 inches of new snow accumulations between really midnight and like sunrise. And temperatures plunging from around 50 this evening to the 20s by morning. And there is a little bit of a potential for a localized flash freeze event, specifically the farther east you go and the farther south you go. And we'll show you guys the winter weather advisories that are in place. So the National Weather Service in Detroit has mentioned flash freeze, and the National Weather Service in northern Indiana has mentioned flash freeze potential. Not overly worried about it for the rest of west central Michigan, but we're keeping a close eye on that potential as well, just because we've had all this rain. And of course, when we have rain and then it gets super cold, it can easily freeze. So anything about flash freeze that I missed, Jacob?
nope, that pretty much covered it.
Okay, perfect. And then the other big thing that's going to happen overnight is we're going to start to see those winds really ramp up as that low pressure approaches the area and starts to move through the area. Winds are going to increase to 35 to 50 miles per hour. And they're going to start from the southwest, and they're going to kind of work their way northeast as time goes on overnight and tomorrow. Right, and then of course Monday is still our very large concern. Really from 12 a.m. midnight tonight until Monday morning, or through Monday morning until 11:59 p.m. Monday night. We have alerts that go into effect at 1 a.m. tonight and continue either through 7 p.m. or 10 p.m. tomorrow, depending on the alert. And again, we'll talk about those alerts in just a second here. Still expecting heavy lake effect snow with totals of 1 to 8 inches area wide. For those of you who were here yesterday, yes, those totals have gone up a little bit. Strong to damaging winds of 45 to 65 miles per hour, and scattered power outages are likely, of course, when we get winds that high. 45 to 65 mile per hour winds are what we're normally talking about when we're talking about severe weather during the summer, and so to be talking about those with this winter system could bring some of those same impacts with power outages and tree damage and the like.
Yep. And just want to chime in
Yep.
here. Good point of those the winds we usually see during severe thunderstorms in the summer. Keep in mind that with those severe thunderstorms, you only see those winds like what, maybe 10, 20 minutes, maybe a half hour typically at most. This is going to be for several hours we're going to be dealing with these winds. So the thing is that might actually cause more damage than you typically see
Yeah.
to your tree limbs and whatnot, power lines, than you would typically see with those severe thunderstorms simply because of the duration of it. So
Yep. It's a longer duration, so more opportunities for a specific wind gust to cause that damage. So, right. So significant blowing and drifting snow is going to come from those winds. Again, especially west of US 131 and the immediate lakeshores, where we're going to see most of those impacts. And the impacts really will be related to travel. Major travel impacts, reduced visibility, whiteouts, and near blizzard conditions. And we could still see some single-digit wind chills on Monday morning. So let's talk about the alerts we have currently. This is our winter storm warning, and this is for Mason, Lake Oceana, Newaygo, Muskegon, Ottawa, Allegan, Van Buren, and Kalamazoo counties in western Michigan, and this runs through 10 p.m., or I'm sorry, through 7 p.m. Tomorrow. And this winter storm warning is for heavy snow and blowing snow, and drifting snow as well, with total snow accumulations between 4 and 8 inches and winds gusting as high as 55 miles per hour. Okay. Roads and especially bridges and overpasses are probably going to become pretty slick and hazardous. But the big thing with this system is this is a pretty low end winter storm warning in terms of snow. What is making this a very high end, high impact winter storm warning is these visibilities. So visibilities may drop below a quarter of a mile due to falling and blowing snow. Whiteout conditions are expected and will make travel treacherous and potentially life-threatening. Visibility and road conditions may change rapidly over short distances in lake effect snow. So especially if you're in these pink shaded counties here, you should consider delaying all travel. If travel is absolutely necessary, like you have an emergency or you absolutely have to go to work, you should be using extreme caution and keep an emergency kit in your vehicle. Okay. Then we have some winter weather advisories in effect as well. This winter weather advisory is for Osceola, Mecosta, Montcalm, Kent, Barry, Gratiot, Ionia, Eaton, and Calhoun counties. This runs through 7 p.m. tonight. We are expecting snow and blowing snow in these purple counties here, with total snow accumulations of 2 to 5 inches and winds gusting as high as 55 miles per hour. Slippery road conditions with hazardous conditions impacting the morning and evening commutes on Monday. Gusty winds could bring down tree branches, and visibilities again will be reduced to less than a mile at times. So while the impacts may not be as significant as in that winter storm warning, we can still anticipate seeing at least some impacts to travel here in these purple shaded counties. We also have a little bit of a different winter weather advisory down here in Berrien, Cass, and St. Joseph counties. That runs through 1 a.m. on Tuesday. And this one is for lake effect snow with total snow accumulations between 2 and 5 inches and maybe 6 inches in southwest Michigan, with winds gusting as high as 45 to 50 miles per hour. And then the other thing that's different about this particular advisory is that it is highlighting the potential for temperatures to fall about 20 or about 30 degrees in 6 hours, which could result in that flash freeze that we were talking about uh, earlier in the live stream. And so again, that runs through 1 a.m. On Tuesday morning. We'll also have a couple of different wind advisories in effect as well. We have a wind advisory for Berrien, Cass, St. Joseph, and Branch, as well as Hillsdale counties. And we also have one in effect for Jackson, Ingham, Clinton, Gratiot, and Isabella counties. And those run through 7 p.m. tomorrow. This wind advisory is for west winds 20 to 35 miles per hour with gusts up to 50 to 55 miles per hour expected. So just a little bit lower than those winds further to the west in those advisory and warning areas. Some snow accumulations are still expected within these areas, and when we combine those snow accumulations with the wind, you could still see blowing and drifting snow, although the impacts to travel specifically will probably not be as noticeable in these winter weather advisory or in these wind advisory areas. Excuse me. Boop, 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 boop. And then we still do have that storm warning in effect on Lake Michigan. So we're going to see some pretty considerable waves, 17 to 22 feet for waves along the Lake Michigan beaches and the open waters of Lake Michigan. So if you're thinking about venturing out to one of our Michigan beaches to get photos or whatever, first of all, it's a bad idea because of the travel impacts we're expecting. But if you do decide to do so, just keep in mind that those piers are going to be pretty swamped by waves, so you'll want to stay off those and stay away from them entirely. Anything that I missed with alerts or things you guys have questions about, Jacob? Anything I missed?
I was just going to bring up the wind alert graphic.
Yep, there you go.
Because you will notice just out east of 127 corridor, out of our coverage area in southeast Michigan, you will see they did opt to go there with a high wind warning. That's over there in the NWS Detroit County warning area, and that is for wind gusts up to 55 to 60 miles per hour. I'm just looking at some of the model data. It is not entirely out of the question we could see a gust or two approach that across the 127 corridor where that wind advisory is. It's just a criteria thing on these offices. I know there's probably some confusion surrounding that, but it's just a criteria thing and confidence thing. But whether it's 55 or 60 miles per hour, it doesn't really change the impacts all that much. You're still looking at blowing snow and drifting snow that'll cause visibility issues, and we're still looking at scattered power outages. And back to the point earlier of the icing up to the north, mainly north of M46. It's that when we get those winds coming in there that strong, we have the ice up there that it doesn't look like, as of right now, it's not looking like it's going to melt as much as we were hoping up there. That could still bring more tree damage to the area, and that could cause a further increase of power outages than we are already seeing. So just something I wanted you to be aware of, especially late tonight into tomorrow as the winds increase.
That's a really good point, Jacob. Thanks for bringing that up. I totally forgot to mention that high wind warning there for the Detroit area. Nicholas says it's pouring in DeWitt, and looking at radar here in DeWitt, I can totally believe it. Lansing and Potterville, you guys are about to get a good round of rain there, as well as this stratiform precipitation moves through the region. All right. Then with that, I think that covers the current alerts, and it obviously begs a question, especially since we were talking about it yesterday in our briefing. Why no blizzard warnings? Well, let's talk about what blizzard warning criteria is, and hopefully we can help answer that question about why there is no blizzard warning. Okay, we have to have winds over 35 miles per hour. visibilities of less than a quarter of a mile in falling or blowing snow. And those conditions have to last for at least 3 hours to get a blizzard warning. Will those conditions exist? Probably. But they are probably not going to last for that 3 hours in any one spot, and that is why we don't have blizzard warnings. Okay, but just because there is not a blizzard warning and there's only a winter storm warning or a winter weather advisory, depending on your area, doesn't mean that areas of blizzard conditions can't exist. So you could still have areas that have those winds over 35 miles per hour and visibilities of less than a quarter of a mile at times. And in fact, the National Weather Service in Grand Rapids has said that we expect to see near blizzard criteria with this combination of events. And that is especially true in those winter storm warning areas, those pink winter storm warning areas that we talked about earlier. So just because there's not a blizzard warning doesn't mean that blizzard conditions are not possible. And in fact, there's still plenty of time for the National Weather Service to upgrade to blizzard warnings if confidence in that criteria being met increases a little bit. So bottom line is that it's still a real possibility to see those blizzard conditions. All right. So with that question hopefully answered for you guys, we can move into our forecast. And this is our final call snowfall outlook for the area. The total snowfall forecast has increased for some areas, like we talked about towards the beginning of the stream. And I just want to highlight that regardless of what accumulations you're expected to see, where you're at on the map, the impacts are not really coming from the snow. They're more coming from the combination of the very strong winds with the snow. Obviously, where we get more snow, the impacts will be greater, but the main impact is not from the snow in of itself. So just because you see yourself in a 2 to 5 inch range or a 3 to 6 inch range doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see that you're going to be okay driving, that you're not going to see impacts from the system. That is not the case. With this much wind moving through the area, we're going to see significant blowing snow regardless of how much snow is actually falling over your area. The heaviest snow will be across our northwest areas up there near Ludington, Hart, Whitehall, and Baldwin. And we think 7 to 10 inches is possible up there. And then, of course, you could see locally higher amounts wherever those dominant or more heavy lake effect snow bands set up and persist. But, of course, that is a nowcasting, Gabe. And when we say nowcasting, it means we have to wait and see what actually happens before we can make a final forecast for an area. And we understand that's not really a forecast at that point. But that is the case with some of these events, and this event is no different. All right, so forecasted wind gusts as well. We are expecting some pretty significant wind gusts. This is probably one of the strongest and most widespread damaging wind events I've seen in quite a while. We are expecting west winds of 15 to 30 miles per hour with gusts up to 50 or 60 mile per hour across our entire area. And you can see that in that burgundy shading on the map there on the right side of your screen. So 50 to 60 miles per hour in all of those areas. Along the immediate lakeshore north of St. Joseph, I think winds can reach or have the potential to reach as high as 65 miles per hour, especially early in the morning tomorrow, shortly after sunrise, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock. I think that those winds along the lakeshore there could reach as high as 65 miles per hour. So these winds are resulting in a significant risk for power outages and tree damage. And again, they're going to create areas of pretty intense, significant blowing snow and reduced visibilities. And then those 12 to 18 foot waves along our Lake Michigan beaches. So again, if you're planning to venture out to Lake Michigan, it's probably not the best idea for tomorrow. Although I bet there will be some pretty cool pictures to be had out there, but it's not worth driving in these conditions to go see those. Anything with the wind or snowfall, Jacob, or anyone in chat that we have questions about or that I missed?
Um, I will point out that you will see on the forecast graphic there that it does go till Tuesday at 3 a.m.
Yep.
I do want to clarify real quick that after looking at some of the model data throughout the day today, I will say the worst of the winds will probably be during the morning hours of Monday, especially along the lake shore.
Yep.
And then as we head throughout the day, Monday, the strong wind gusts will continue, probably in the 50 to maybe 60 mile per hour range still, probably across much of the area. But as we head towards, especially late Monday afternoon and especially Monday evening, we will still see the winds begin to relax a little bit, but they'll still be on the gustier side, maybe 30, 35, potentially 40 miles per hour or so. And that will continue at least until over through the overnight hours by Tuesday morning, especially after that 3 a.m. time frame that the forecast is valid until. Once that time passes, they'll start to quiet down with the winds, which will eventually help with the. We could still see it into Tuesday morning to some extent. I do think the blowing and drifting snow and reduced visibilities that'll be reduced as well. In fact, and by Tuesday morning, the snow itself will start to shut down as well. So,
Yep. Thanks for clarifying that, Jacob. Appreciate it. We did talk
yep.
about that in our full discussion on our social media post with this graphic from a little bit ago. In case you guys want to check out that at the end of this stream. Alrighty. Then with that, let's take a look at our travel conditions, and we will have full specific graphics for each major roadway, interstate, and U.S. route in our area. Out tonight or very early tomorrow morning, we'll have those out for you guys so that you can see each specific roadway at a specific time range. But in general, we are expecting pretty widespread areas of at least dangerous travel conditions. And again, I say at least because there are going to be areas of blizzard conditions where I think travel could become impossible or life-threatening or both in those areas if you opt to travel. And I think the best chance for that is north of I-94, west of US 131 in that pink dashed zone on the map. If we were going to see impossible or life-threatening travel conditions, the best chance is within those zones. And I do think that that's a pretty real possibility, pretty likely possibility to see localized impossible travel in those regions. Again, at this point, we just don't know exactly where those will be. We kind of need to wait and see where those snow bands set up and what regional traffic cameras will look like in the morning. So moderate impacts south of I-94 and from M66 to US 127 and the I-69 corridors. So that's everywhere in this orange shaded zone here. And then once we get towards US 127 and that I-69 corridor, which runs from Lansing through to Marshall and down to Coldwater, we do expect that those travel impacts will start to taper off. There will still be areas of blowing snow, reduced visibilities, some drifting, especially over back roads. But I think that the main roads especially will be in pretty good shape for most of the day in these areas near Lansing, Alma, Jackson, Coldwater, and Hillsdale. Right, so official National Weather Service forecasts. This is from the National Weather Service in Grand Rapids, issued at 12:18 p.m. this afternoon. This is their winter storm summary, and this is just highlighting the potential for that snowfall that we were talking about, and all of those hazards. So icy and snow-covered roads with blowing and drifting snow and periods of less than a quarter-mile visibilities, especially near the lakeshore, like we talked about, and hazardous travel, especially during that early morning commute as people head off to work on Monday. The good news is we don't have school in session right now because of the holiday break, but still, as people head out the door to work, those are going to be when the most significant travel impacts exist, is that morning commute. So if you must travel in the morning, give yourself extra time, keep it slowed down. Make sure you have plenty of following distance between you and the car in front of you, and have an emergency kit in your car so that if you do become stranded, if you do run into an area of impossible travel conditions, we can, or you can, take care of yourself and anyone else you might have in your car. I think that says Cecil wants to know about the severe weather. We will talk about severe weather in just a minute here as soon as we get through these next two graphics. But in general, I think the severe weather threat is going to stay south of our area, but we'll clarify that in just a second here. All right, and then this is the National Weather Service high wind summary, again from the National Weather Service in Grand Rapids. 1 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday evening. And then again, the hazards are those blowing snow and reduced visibilities with periods of whiteout conditions. We could see some downed tree limbs and scattered power outages as well. Use caution while driving, secure outdoor items, prepare for power outages, make sure your devices are charged, make sure you have some flashlights. If you have a generator, if you plan to use a generator, if you lose power, remember that needs to be kept away from doors, windows, vents, should not be used inside. All of those things are good reminders, and flashlights, not candles. Candles can start fires, flashlights cannot, so use a flashlight. But again, in general, the highest wind gusts are right here along the immediate lake shore, where they could get into those pink ranges of 60 to 65 miles per hour. Then they kind of taper off as you move further inland, but still pockets of 50 to 60 mile per hour winds kind of dotted throughout the map here. So certainly a possibility to see some of those damaging winds all throughout our area on Monday. Okay, let's quickly jump to that question about severe weather. And let me actually turn on the other alert table here. Okay, so we do have this tornado watch down here in yellow. That is well south of our area. So this is the state line right here. That tornado watch is down off to the south, so we are not under a tornado watch here at all. And then we can see that there is a line of showers and thunderstorms that is warned for severe thunderstorms, as well as a couple of tornadoes as well. There's a couple of tornado warnings in here. And again, these are kind of just slowly pushing off to the east. They don't have too much of a northerly component. And as we take a look at the activity further north, it's a little bit less organized. There's a little bit less lightning activity. It's not as intense. The reflectivity cores aren't as intense as this line down here. So we're keeping an eye on it. And of course, Jacob, you can give your insight here too. But I think that the severe weather threat will stay pretty well to our south by at least a county or two, probably. And if it were to occur, it'd be right along that US 12 corridor in far southern Michigan.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. So while we're not going to say the severe threat is completely zero, at this point it is trending very, very, very low. But of course, we'll be here watching it regardless. And if we do have a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning or something like that pop off, we'll be here covering it. But As Jonah said, if that's going to happen, it's probably going to be confined to primarily the U.S., pretty much the state line along the U.S. 12 corridor. So think areas like Niles or Sturgis or maybe Coldwater at the most, or Hillsdale at the most. That is that is going to be area, if there's going to be severe weather, that's probably where it's going to be at this point, based on what we've been looking at behind the scenes.
Yeah, and again, that threat's really going to start to taper off as we move into the evening hours here. So, in general, not overly concerned about severe weather at this point, Cecil, but we are keeping an eye on it. And I apologize if I'm butchering your name there. Doing my best. All right, let's jump back to this then. We'll continue to look at our weather service forecast, and this is their official snowfall forecast. So again, you can see it pretty much lines up with ours pretty well with those highest totals north of Muskegon there across parts of Oceana Lake, Newaygo, and Mason counties there, where those totals are starting to push up towards 8 inches. And then wherever we get those localized snow bands, a snow band is currently favored right through here, and that's why there's that pocket of higher totals there. Then there's another one kind of favored to move through this range here between St. Joseph and Kalamazoo, so that's why we see that higher pocket there. Whether or not that's exactly where those bands will set up remains to be seen. And of course, that's why we do not have those higher totals defined in any specific area, with the exception of that far northwestern area on our forecast at this point. This is the percent chance for 2 inches of snowfall or more. Higher chances in the darker blue colors on the left, and then reducing chances or slightly lower chances kind of taper to the right side of that forecast graphic in the lighter blues to white colors. This is the same graphic, but for 4 inches of snowfall or more, and then 6 inches or more, 8 inches or more, and finally 12 inches or more. Very, very low chances for 12 inches or more of snowfall. All right, let's take a look at our recent runs of our computer models. Right, and we're gonna take a look at the HRRR and the NAM, and then we'll look at the HREF as well. And these are kind of our big major players for our computer models. This is for winds. We'll go through each product, and then we'll reset for the next product. So we're going to look at wind gusts on all three models first. So this is the HRRR winds. So this is this evening at 5 p.m. Okay, and then as we move into about 8 p.m., you can start to see those stronger winds and those purple and magenta colors moving in down south. We're approaching midnight now, and we can see those gusts are starting to push 45 to 50 miles per hour down along I-94. Then as we approach daybreak, they start to impinge on that I-96 corridor. Then by sunrise, by 8 a.m. or so, we're starting to see those winds transition from to the northwest and really ramp up, especially along the lakeshore in those yellow and orange colors along the immediate lakeshore. Those are showing 55 to 65 mile per hour winds there. And then as we move into the afternoon, they weaken a little bit, but they're still generally in that 40 to 50 mile per hour range, with some isolated higher gusts certainly possible through there. And then as we move into the true evening hours, this is 6 p.m., we're starting to see those winds relax, but still gusty, certainly enough to blow that snow around still. And as we head into the overnight hours, those really start to calm down. But still have swaths of 30 to 35 mile per hour winds in there, and those will continue to blow snow around at least a little bit before we get to Tuesday afternoon. So that's the winds on the HRRR. We'll take a look at the NAM model now as well for winds. Showing a very similar story. Those winds start to move in from the southwest this evening and push south throughout the night. And this is midnight. We're starting to see those winds push further north. And then as we approach sunrise, they transition to the northwest, and we start to see those higher winds, especially along the lakeshore. And they are 45 to 60 miles per hour across the rest of our area for much of the day on Monday before relaxing Monday evening and overnight into Tuesday morning. All right, so for winds on our HREF, this is kind of a summary of multiple different models. It has multiple different models that contribute to its output data, and so this is kind of a good middle ground. It does a good job forecasting winds, and unfortunately, we can't zoom in any more than this, so we won't spend too much time with this particular model, but this evening, it is showing those winds start to move in from the south. Then as we approach the midnight hour, it is getting up towards I-96. And then as we approach sunrise, very similar to our other models, we start to see those winds shift from the northwest. And we can see that those are, and I'll zoom in artificially here a little bit, we can see that those winds along the immediate lakeshore are where those highest gusts are in that orange and red color right in there. And then those winds start to relax as we go throughout the day into Tuesday. Okay, so that is a look at winds. The other thing I want to look at quickly is that visibility, product that we looked at yesterday on the HRRR. Remember that we want to see widespread pink colors during that time of the snow coming through. And that shows visibilities under a mile, and the bright pinks to white is less than half a mile or a quarter mile. So this is 7 a.m. And we can see where those snow bands develop, especially along the lakeshore. We have those visibilities under a mile, and certainly have localized visibilities under a half mile, under a quarter mile even. So, but this product kind of gives us, again, we were talking about why there's not a blizzard warning. This product kind of sheds some light on that as well. They're not really localized over any one area for more than 3 hours, and I think that is really why there is not blizzard warnings, even though there are certainly going to be areas of blizzard conditions within this winter storm warning area. Right? Anything else that we want to look up on models, Jacob, or anything that you guys are curious about in chat?
Nope, I'm good. Just a second to see if anyone in watching mentions in chat, but I think I'm good.
Okay, perfect.
Nothing popping up in chat so far.
I don't see anything in chat, so right. So looking ahead, some changes to this as well. So after our storm system tomorrow, we're going to see cold and lake effect snow continue for at least parts of Tuesday and Wednesday, before we start to see actually some moderating temperatures and lower snow chances to start off the new year. So that's changed a little bit since our update yesterday. We're now expecting temperatures to warm up a little bit after the new year. Right? And then at this point, we'll open it up for questions from any of you guys here in chat. What questions do you have about this upcoming storm system? Just want to take a peek at there's any comments on any of our Facebook posts as well. A quick behind the scenes look. Yes, I'm using Google PowerPoint for this, or Google presentation for this.
Great. Nicole on Facebook is asking, could we expect flight delays tomorrow?
That's a good
And
question.
that's a good question, actually. And the answer to that is, we'll say probably, because, and with the high winds and the snowfall, especially the further west you are, there's going to be periods of reduced visibility. In fact, let me look up.
Yeah, it really depends
What?
on where you're flying out of too, Nicole, right? Like if you're flying out of Detroit, really you're only going to be worrying about high winds and turbulence. Um, if you're flying out of Grand Rapids or even Muskegon or like the Southwest Michigan Regional Airport in Kalamazoo or not Kalamazoo, Allegan County, that could be an entirely different story. And I think Jacob's looking at the aviation forecast if I
Yep.
can read his mind.
Yep. So it says a strong cold. This is the latest from Grand Rapids, issued earlier this afternoon, I should say. I think we get a new one pretty soon in the next couple hours. But it says a strong cold front moves through this evening. Temperatures will fall and winds will increase from the west northwest. That'll be especially towards tomorrow morning. Lake effect will also develop, creating blowing and drifting with largest accumulations closer to the lakeshore. So, again, that will be basically near and west of 131. That's what we're talking about when we say closer to the lakeshore. IFR visibilities in snow and blowing snow will be common overnight into Monday. So, again, that's what we were talking about there. That blowing snow is going to be visibility reductions, and with it drifting as well, that it'll be somewhat tough to some extent for them to keep the runways clear too. So,
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I would say that flight delays, especially out of Gerald R. Ford International Airport, Kalamazoo's airport, the Southwest Michigan Regional Airport in Allegan, Muskegon, any of those areas or airports right along 131 or west of 131, I would definitely anticipate some flight delays tomorrow, whether you're coming in or going out of. If you're flying out of Detroit or like Lansing, those flight delays might be less common. Um, any other
what else have?
questions? Yeah.
Yep.
Not seeing anything on our recent Facebook posts. Otherwise, I'd answer those here as well. Not really seeing any questions come through.
Yep, not at this point. So,
Looks like that flood advisory has expired for Berry and Cass, St. Joseph, and Branch counties, so that's good news.
yep.
Still not seeing any concerns with this line of strong to severe thunderstorms.
Yeah, I will say this. I was kind of watching behind the scenes, but that northern tornado warning
Yep.
kind of towards Kankakee there down in Illinois, southeast of there. I was looking at correlation coefficient, and it looks like this is on the Chicago radar. There was a looked to be a tornado debris signature there. I mean, it's kind of broadening out now, which means tornado. So basically, what we're getting at here is there may have been, obviously, that'll be up to National Weather Service to survey that, but there probably was a brief tornado that touched down there near the Sugar Island area, over towards the St. Anne area. So
Yeah. So what Jacob is talking about, let me get a different color here that'll show up better. What Jacob is talking about is this blue ball right here. And then as that moves there, so that is what we call a CC drop. And that is a tornado debris signature, could be a tornado debris signature. And the reason that shows up is because this particular product takes all the raindrops, all the hailstones, whatever is in that storm, and kind of compares it to one another. And so if you've got a bunch of raindrops, it looks very similar. And that's what these kind of purpley red colors are, is very similar products. Or if you've got a bunch of hail that all is very similar, that might look just a little bit different, but it'll overall be pretty similar. If you've got a bunch of rain and then you throw some tornado debris in there as well, those particles are obviously very different, and so the computer says, hey, there's something different here. And in this case, that very well could be tornado debris, because that was matching up with this little velocity couplet here pretty well over the last little bit. So there very easily could have been a tornado right when this when we see these brighter reds on brighter greens. So that's what Jacob was talking about there.
yeah.
Yeah.
So and again, uh, we will say that the front of that overall is continuing to look very low, but
Yeah.
we'll still be here behind the scenes watching it. And if we have to come back for a severe thunderstorm or tornado warning, we of course will. But and that should be limited again to probably the state line at the very most, or basically your US 12 corridor. So
Yeah.
just wanted to.
Basically, our area of concern is going to be south of this line as it stands. So unless these cells can kind of push up this way, or something starts to develop in here and push up this way, we're probably not going to see much in terms of a severe weather threat. But we're keeping an eye on it, like Jacob said. So
I do not see any other questions, so
yeah, I don't either. I think we will we'll wrap up this stream. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Bottom line, hunker down tomorrow if you can. If you have to go out, make sure you've got an emergency kit in your car, and stay tuned as we provide updates this evening and then throughout the day tomorrow.